Okay, so back on to part 2. So basically, you might have noticed when I inserted this in the layout tab that there was a box that actually showed you what was happening in the model space, what the drawing was. And that box is called a viewport. Okay, and in the paper space or in the layout tab, it actually acts like a regular AutoCAD object. Okay, so you can turn it off and on. Currently, the layer that it's on is foundation wall, which isn't ideal. So I'm going to make a new layer and I'm going to put it on. I'm going to put it on a layer called viewports because that's the best way. And then I can turn that layer off and on as I wish. So I'm going to make this kind of a weird color. I can choose any color I want because I'm going to turn it off and on. So here we're going to put this on the viewport layer. So now you can see I can turn it off and on. Oops, that did not work. Here we put this on the viewports layer. So now it's pink and it has disappeared because I turned that layer off. If I turn that layer back on, there's my viewport. Okay, so what the viewports are is kind of like a window that looks into the model space. So if I double click out here, I'm in layout tab space, but if I double click in here, I'm actually in the model and I can move things around. Okay, so viewports are kind of like our window into model space. If I go into model space, here we are. Go into my layout. Here I have my layout tabs. Okay, or sorry, here I have my model in the layout. To get out of here, I just double click on the outside. So I can go in and I can go out. So when we're setting up a drawing, we may need to create our own layout tabs, or sorry, our own viewports. And that you would do over here in this layout box. Here's rectangular, this is layout viewports. So I can create another viewport over here. And you can see I can now look at my drawing in 2 different places. And again, I don't have my layer current, so I need to adjust that. There we go. Okay. So how do we manipulate these things? I'm just going to delete this. So in order to be able to print to scale, what I want to do is I want to adjust the scale of the viewport. So my title block is 1:1, but I need to be able to adjust my viewport scale. So I'm going to double click inside, and you'll notice down here you have some new things that popped up. Okay, down here on the bottom right hand side where my cursor is. And one of them is actually scale. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to adjust my scale. Now I'm using an imperial drawing, obviously, because this is a house plan. And I'm going to try 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. Ah, that looks pretty good. Might even be able to use, let's make it smaller, 3/8. Ah, that's too big. I think that's not going to fit very well. So I'm going to stick with 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. Okay, so now on my drawing, I have my paper at 1:1, but I have my viewport set at 1/4 of an inch equals a foot. Now, if I'm not in the viewport, you'll notice that that bar that popped up here is gone. If I double click inside, it's back. Okay. Once I've decided what scale I want my viewport to be and I've centered it the way that I want, I'm going to lock it. Okay. And that's because if I do anything in here and I zoom, I'm going to mess up my scale. And that's going to be really important when I get to drawing. So to lock it, I'm going to adjust it where I want it, probably centered on the page. If you don't like these, the graph paper that's in the background, you can just turn that off right here. Okay. You can lock your viewport right here. Okay. So if that turns blue, my viewport's now locked. Now, if I pan, it doesn't go anywhere. Okay. So if I want to have multiple pages or multiple drawings, based off of this floor plan, I can make and duplicate these layout tabs. So I could say move or copy, and I'm going to create a copy of layout 1. And now I have layout 1 and layout 1. Okay. I can change the name of the tabs. So I'm going to edit this. I can right click and I can rename, and I'm going to call this one floor plan. And the next one, I'm going to rename, and I'm going to call this floor plan furnished. So if you want to make a floor plan that has all your furniture on it, not just the dimensions for the walls, but with the furniture, you can have a layout tab. Furnished, if I want to have a duplicate, sorry, right click, move or copy. I want to create a copy of the floor plan one. I'm going to change this one, rename, and I'm going to call this foundation. So now I have a plan that I'm going to use for my foundation drawing, a plan that I'm going to use for my floor plan, and a plan that I'm going to use for my furnished floor plan if I'm going to make that drawing, okay? And this way we can use the same drawing file, and we can create our title block, and we can create our proper scale. So in the next video, what I'm going to show you is how to add text and dimensions to your drawing. So just as a quick review, to get into the viewport, we double click, and to get out of the viewport, we double click on the outside, double click inside, double click outside. You can see this gets highlighted. When I'm inside is when I can adjust my scale, and I can lock it so that when I zoom, it doesn't become a problem. Okay, so in the next video, I'm going to show you how to add text, and I'm also going to show you how to adjust your layers so that we can draw everything one on top of the other in our plans.